If you missed it yesterday, Monty was here, Jason was here, Iowa Sam was here, I was here. Kerry Rhodes was next to me in studio. And the topic of conversation that came up really started, this was not a Caitlin Clark sort of conversation. The conversation actually centered around Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees because it was all about John Heyman's piece on how Aaron Judge is underrated. I found out in the last 24 hours, I think he's very underrated from the response that we got when Jason Stewart pointed out that in recent weeks when Caitlin Clark showed up to a Yankees game, Aaron Judge was there to greet her, that Caitlin Clark was the more popular person in that exchange. And I disagreed.
Yes.
Said, what world are we living in that Aaron Judge is not more popular than Caitlin Clark?
Earth. That's the one we're living in.
and this is what ensued.
Heyman writes, numbers-wise, analytically-wise, and everything else, he should be considered among the greats. And I don't think that I don't really even dispute that. I think the big difference is how we regard baseball, especially doing what we do for a living. On a national level, it just doesn't move the needle anymore. Like, a great example this week, Aaron Judge was in the news. Do you remember why? Because he was giving something to Caitlin Clark, a much more famous sports figure in this country. Shouldn't Aaron Judge be getting gifts when he goes from city to city?
Hold on. I don't think Caitlin Clark. Hold on. Good use. No way Caitlin Clark is more popular than Aaron Judge.
Ooh.
No way. I don't even know what metric I could use. But I'm sorry, Aaron Judge, number one, has the longevity. Like, Caitlin Clark has been a conversation for a true conversation for what, 18 months?
I'm a Yankee fan too, and I believe that Judge is all the things that we're saying and what you're saying as well. I just think the explosion of the women's game and what she did during those times, it kind of unrivals any other thing, any other player, any other sport as well. It's interesting.
That was part of the conversation. I don't know if you caught it, Monty, but Iowa Sam usually has his mic on what, let's just say, like, if it was an office building, it would be third floor. And it needed some WD-40 for how quickly he pulled the mic down to defend Caitlin Clark. And then the hot potato was passed to you, and you were ready to jump in. And it didn't stop there. After the show, at night, the name calling towards me. Someone lifted our video that we don't even know how they got our video. We have no idea because more of our social push came today with the topic of conversation. It has been an absolute whirlwind of Caitlin Clark fanatics and just a very light dusting of Aaron Judge support on social media.
You know, I don't even know if it's Caitlin Clark fanatics. It's the Caitlin Clark phenomenon. That's what it is. Because I have a feeling that a lot of people that chimed in aren't even necessarily Caitlin Clark fans. They just see how popular she is right now. And what's great for all of our listeners, it was not planned. I think you derailed your entire plan because of this.
Did.
Yes, the entire plan that you and Carrie had was derailed because of this particular conversation. And so it became an interesting one when you really think about it. She is a phenomenon. She is the most popular, possibly, woman on the planet. Like, I now I want to know who's more popular, Caitlin Clark or Taylor Swift?
Well, it's Taylor Swift. Music
now I'm
has
wondering.
a bigger reach, and this goes back to your LeBron James. Like, LeBron James is more popular than Caitlin Clark.
You would think so,
Yes,
but at the Olympics,
he is.
we just saw at the
He
Olympics.
is.
Caitlin Clark was not at the Olympics, and people were wearing her Iowa jersey, and she was not there.
It's
in Paris.
It reminds me when I'm in the state of California where I live, and I see a Wisconsin license plate, and I feel like I see them everywhere because that's where I'm from.
Yeah.
When it's in reality, I'm noticing that one,
Correct.
and I'm not noticing all the other ones. So if you're seeing all these Caitlin Clark jerseys, you're noticing that. Maybe you're not seeing the other ones, but there's and we're not gonna. By the way, we're not gonna make it a LeBron or Caitlin Clark conversation. I agree with you that it is a crazy phenomenon, and I didn't deny the popularity, as I said, over the last 18 months of what Caitlin Clark has brought. We'll have an update of our poll numbers as well. But just the fact of the matter is that it hasn't even been 2 years. And Aaron Judge has been around for the last 6 or 7 years, been on top of his game for the biggest brand in all of baseball, has done some amazing things, and doesn't get any credit for that.
I don't disagree with that. I also agree with Jason's stance of like, this has to do with just kind of baseball not being as popular as other sports. I agree with that. I think he doesn't get the credit he deserves. But at the same time, Caitlin Clark is her own thing. She is on a different level.
Yeah.
It's just what it is.
I'm going to give you some of the feedback that I've received.
Oh, good. Make sure you don't use the bad words. Oh, yes.
I'll try to keep it clean. We even had a circuit go crazy there when I mentioned Caitlin Clark. Jason Stewart, do we have an update at all on our poll question that is close to ending? There's still time to vote, by the way.
47 minutes. 47 minutes left to get in. Hundreds and hundreds of votes. And it's still the exact same percentage as it was yesterday. 75% Caitlin Clark, 25% Aaron Judge.
And it kind of reflects what we had in the room. There were 5 of us, 4 of you, 80% thought Caitlin Clark. 1 of us, me, thought Aaron Judge. The 20%. That's where it's laid out. This is some of the feedback. Graham tweets in, Dan Beyer is a massive, massive dip bleep. Be a real shame if Caitlin FC made him feel the full weight of CC's motion. I don't even know I know what the first sentence meant. I do not know what the Caitlin Clark. Does she have her own football club?
Maybe.
I did not understand.
Is there a Real Caitlin Clark that I'm not familiar with?
I do think that was a Caitlin fanatic. Well, that one was a Caitlin fanatic.
There was another one that told me time has passed me by. It is time to hang him up. Hold on.
So good.
Someone else wrote, Dan Beyer on Fox, not blue check marked in parentheses. I'm not popular enough and I haven't purchased it. Now, like that you will get a blue check mark if you are popular enough. I'm not popular enough. And someone says, I'm an average middle-aged woman and have never, ever heard of Aaron Judge, but I love Caitlin Clark. That was your point.
That was my point.
And that's,
correct.
I think, others as well of, and if I'm guilty of looking at the sports-only view and the sports-only factor, so be it. But I think that was part of your point in explaining all of this when you're texting your friends. Not saying they're middle-aged women.
No.
But just a group that maybe isn't in our normal world.
They are not in our normal world. And so I just was like, do you know, Aaron Judge, Caitlin Clark? And they all said, we know who Caitlin Clark is, barely, but we have no idea who Aaron Judge is. I asked a friend and her husband, who are also not into sports, after my volleyball game, and I was like, Aaron Judge, Caitlin Clark, who are they? And they looked at each other and they're like, we don't know either. Oh, maybe that Caitlin. Maybe I've heard Caitlin Clark. And that was it. But Aaron Judge, nada.
If Caitlin Clark doesn't become the WNBA superstar that we think that she could be,
somebody's going to have to study that and figure out where the downfall went. Because there's no way. She is going to be. A small sample size, but we already have seen her trajectory from the start of the WNBA season to, halfway through it. And now with the break, because she didn't get to go to the Olympics. So now with the break, I don't see her not.
I was going to say play hypothetical with me, but we don't even have to play hypothetical because I guess what you're saying is as long as she's very good, she's going to be this popular.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that may have been the downfall of others because they weren't as good, where you've had this, I don't know, what'd you call it, cosmic rise or maybe even fall, considering, the biggest comparison is Tebow, right? So if Tim Tebow was any good in the National Football League, it would have just continued and continued. Just that comet just keeps on flying.
Yeah. That's a really good comparison. Yeah.
I think that's and that is a comparison. And we'll actually, later on in the show, we're going to kind of try to figure out who are these other athletes that have had this. But Tebow's been a name that has been brought up when we've been talking about Caitlin Clark of having that same effect. To your point, because that's my point about this, is Aaron Judge has been a great Major League Baseball player and a top Major League Baseball player for the last 7 seasons.
And also for the Yankees. Sorry,
Yeah.
to add that to it.
Hey, I'll take all the help I can get. Add all you want for the Judge case. Nick, you want to chime in? Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, I saw this poll get posted almost in real time yesterday. This is like when you get to election season and the news organizations can call it like in November, California will be called for Joe Biden the second polls close.
Yes.
This was called for Caitlin Clark almost immediately.
Iowa Sam said this is Reagan Mondale 84. Where like I only win Minnesota. But again,
That's Caitlin Clark country, though.
I know.
Isn't it Reagan Dukakis?
It was Reagan Mondale. I looked it up.
Oh,
So it
okay.
was 84. And Dukakis was against Bush in 88.
Yeah.
But yes, it was. So you were right on the beginning, Sam. So it was Reagan Mondale 1984. And I know this because Walter Mondale came to my hometown for our Labor Day parade. It was the biggest deal my town of 9,000 had ever had, but he came to town in 1984. That when the Charlie Daniels band came to town to play. Two biggest things that ever happened in my city. But the point is, it was a complete annihilation. And I think that's what you're saying
Yes.
in terms of my argument. But if she is an average WNBA player,
The poll just said right now.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was reacting to.
And I did say yesterday, Nick, let's have this conversation in 5 years or something.
Yeah.
Didn't we joke about
I
that?
think it'd be
to
perfect.
See
Yeah.
what happens. Revisit this. But right
let me
now,
put this in my calendar.
It's
August
Put it in your
14th,
calendar.
2029.
Yes.
It's two things. I think Jason's point is very well made about just the current state of where baseball is, that the star of the Yankees just doesn't have as much clout as it used to. And I think also on the other side of it is, women's basketball has been steadily building. They've been building. There's been an undercurrent. It's gradually gotten more popular. And then Caitlin Clark was able to catapult it. And so this was also something that we hadn't really seen yet for a sport that hadn't exploded. So I think it's those two things going together here.
We have had reasonable takes on this. We've had unreasonable takes. Jason, you kind of started this whole thing.
I was thinking when you brought up the fact that let's play it out, if she becomes an average WNBA player, which I have a feeling she will be, maybe slightly above average, I think it'll be more like a Dale Jr. thing, and that he was always popular even though he didn't win, because there's just something about him and his background and his family that he always maintained that like superstardom over all the other drivers. But this is on a much different level, I think. This is a worldwide thing. And I want to say that our poll and what we did in this, in radio over the last 24 hours is a great example of how dumb the Olympic team is for not including her on the team. This is the very latest example of how short-sighted and petty they were, right?
I mean, you make a good point.
I
Yes, it's true. It's true. We were all talking about, even if she didn't play, even if she didn't get the minutes, it was good overall for women's basketball. And for Team USA, it was good. It was good no matter her being on the team and not playing.
I needed a break. I needed a Caitlin Clark
And,
break.
maybe she needed the break.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it was a blessing
she
in
definitely
disguise
did.
for her.
For sure.
I said this because Carrie Rhodes and I do our Sunday show. And I said on Sunday, if Team USA would have lost, the person I would have felt worse for is Caitlin Clark.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of the people who came out and said she should have been on the Olympic team.
Would have been right back out.
Yeah, and all those players on the Olympic team would go back to resenting her.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this bridge is being built, that there's some mending along the way. She would have been the biggest victim in all. It wouldn't have been Asia Wilson. It wouldn't have been Brianna Stewart or Diana Taurasi or Kelsey Plum. It wouldn't have been any of those players. It would have been Caitlin Clark because of what I experienced over the last 24 hours. And it would have been 9 million times worse for those players, considering people don't even know what network we're on. Literally, we have a sheet behind us that has Fox Sports Radio 50 times, and people still can't get it right.
Yeah.
Idiots.
Yeah. Well, at least, you don't work for ESPN.
Someone tweeted ESPN's Dan Beyer. Look, Fox Sports Radio, Fox Sports Radio, Fox Sports Radio, Fox Sports Radio, Fox Sports Radio. Hold on. Fox Sports Radio. Fox Sports Radio.
Your tag is Dan
iHeartMedia,
Beyer
Fox
on
Sports
Fox.
Radio. Yeah. Jeez.
But the problem, too, is, and I don't know if you guys were aggravated by this, ESPN's Dan Beyer,
Yeah.
and there's no apostrophe.
Yeah, of course.
Like, come on, where's the possession in that tweet?
I thought it was ESPN-S. Like it was just the new channel that they opened. Like ESPN News or ESPN2.
Yeah.
Wasn't the case.
No,
Well-
but listen, you were trending. People.
No, I wasn't. I was. If anything, I was trending downwards. I mean, people are saying again that my career is over for a stupid sports talk segment.
And yet here you are.
Here you are.
I live to see another day, Nick.
And defending Aaron Judge.
And I still feel like I
Yeah.
don't think that the hay is in the barn. I don't think this is over with yet.
No.
And if Caitlin Clark goes on to have the average career that Jason thinks that she may have, I think I have a really good case 5 years from now.
Yeah.
I don't think if she has the career that Monty says, I probably don't have a great case. What were you going to say, Iowa Sam?
I mean, what is average right now? She's like on pace to break the WNBA assist record in a season, and she's already having one of the greatest WNBA rookie seasons of all time.
You'll know it.
What do you mean?
You'll know it if she's average or not.
But
Like,
she's
that's
not
the
average
point.
right now. She's for
I
what
know, but
for where
that's-
she is. Why would she go downward? She's just starting.
Because
we don't know.
Because every athlete just continues
Sure.
to get better and better in their career. Every single one that
many
plays.
do. I would say many do.
But it's unknown. It is unknown territory.
Right, sure.
That's all.
I
And
think she's more inclined to have an outstanding career.
I agree with you.
I don't know
but-
where Jason's getting this, but that's fine. That's
But it's
his
just
opinion.
unknown.
No, I listen. You don't wish injury on anybody.
Yeah.
It's always a
That
factor.
could always be a factor,
League
yeah.
catching up.
Yeah.
Different thing. Like there's all these things. But maybe to your point, Sam, and I'll give you credit on this because I don't agree that every player gets better and better. It is most difficult in a rookie season, and nobody has had more difficult of a time probably in their rookie season than Caitlin Clark has had.
Yeah.
So
Maybe at the beginning of the season, but that's not true now. She adjusted.
I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah,
Why are
yeah.
you disagreeing with
Well, I
me
just
right
think
now?
that-
Why
I
do you
think that-
do this all the time, Sam? I'm agreeing with you. I am on your side.
He's very defensive about Iowa.
No, I'm
Caitlin
not.
Clark.
I'm just looking at the numbers, and the numbers speak that she's having one of the most outstanding rookie seasons of all time, even though she had a bit of a learning curve at the beginning.
I think we're getting a little removed from the
Well,
original
I
question.
thought Jason was going to say something. Are you holding back, or are you going to say something?
I'm just saying that what made her transformative in college, she's not doing that on the pro level. So if she leads the league in assists for the next 10 years, I don't know if that's going to be maybe slightly above average, but it's not. She's not going to have the impact on the WNBA that she had in college basketball. And the question that we're trying to think about is she still going to maintain this popularity even if she is just like an assist queen for the next 10 years? I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. But in Sam, I don't know if you weren't listening to what I was saying, was her first 2 months were more difficult start to a career than probably anybody has had in the WNBA. And she has made it through that and is now growing as a basketball player. Right? Is that what you heard?
Yes.
So that's why I didn't understand why you're disagreeing with me, because I'm agreeing that you're saying like she's about to set the WNBA record for assists, and she's made it through that portion of it, so she is trending that way. There are things that could come up. Who knows? Maybe the Fever don't put a decent team around her anymore. Who knows? All those things could play out. But I do know this, that we do have evidence of Aaron Judge over these 6 seasons of what he has done, and we just don't have that information right now with Caitlin Clark. And that's my only defense of this.
Yeah.
So in saying if we're really going to look at it, and I brought up the Bradley Cooper, Tom Cruise thing.
Which is a good example, but I just think it's a little bit of, oranges and little mandarins.
Bradley Cooper could have 2 great movies back-to-back in a summer and into Christmas, but Tom Cruise is still a bigger movie star.
I agree.
And that's just what I'm saying, like, at this point is like, we are in the midst of this Caitlin Clark hurricane. So what happens maybe 2 years from now, or where we are in all of this? And again, she may be on top of the WNBA at that point, and then the answer is definitely settled. I just don't think that there's an ultimate verdict yet, despite the feedback that we've been getting online.
I mean, I agree with you. This is something we have to check back in on 5 years. We'll all just plan this again in 5 years. Put it in your calendars.
It's like the Olympics coming to LA.
Exactly.
Just check back in
Just
4 years.
Check back in. But it's just, I think the phenomenon that is Caitlin Clark has already lasted longer than I think people expected. And so I don't think she's going anywhere. That's just how I feel already.
Sure.
But Tom Cruise is more, than Bradley Cooper, even though he might be on your head right now because he has a movie. I get all that.
I want to finish just with this, and then we'll kind of put a bow on it, because we're going to talk about transcendent athletes coming up at the top of the next hour. That's in about 40 minutes here on Covino and Rich on Fox Sports Radio. Guys, by the way, we're in for Dan Patrick earlier today. Monty and I did a clip about 3 months ago, would you say 4 months ago, when Caitlin Clark was entering the league, and we had all that backlash of everybody saying boy, she's going to learn when she gets in the WNBA. It was around Final Fours, around April in that point, because that's when you had the conversation of who's the greatest player of all time. And it caught fire, and we got a lot of response to it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was 50-50. I would say there's the Caitlin Clark defenders, and then there were those who felt that Diana Taurasi, Breanna Stewart, and others were right in how they were talking about Caitlin Clark and how she walked. But it was 50-50. This has not been that. It's been all Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
I thought that there would maybe be a back and forth. Thank goodness for Randy Scott, who just tweeted in that his son has Aaron Judge socks. Otherwise, I think I'd be hitting an offer today. So, but it was more 50-50 when you're talking about Caitlin Clark, where she is in the WNBA compared to other players, than this actual conversation here.
You're so right. It's just that this question, I'm telling you, didn't bring Caitlin Clark fans out. It just brought out the conversation, who's more famous? Mm-hmm. While our conversation was Caitlin Clark fans against general WNBA fans.
Yes.
You know what I mean? This was just people out there that were like, no, she's more popular. It was a different conversation, and it was interesting that we're
talking about a popularity contest.
We're talking about a popularity contest.